There was a time in my 20s where I thought I could burn the candle on both ends and I could wake up early, stay up late, work a full-time job, work a part-time job. I was in a long distance relationship at the time, so I was up and down the road all the time. It was just a lot going on, and I realized I was doing too much when my partner brought it to my attention that every weekend when you get here, you literally collapse. You come here to go to sleep because you're working so hard in your everyday life where you are. And it's like, that's not cool when you're in a relationships. I figured that out pretty quickly that while I was still young and I was able to push through energy wise, physically, I was able to push through and do all those things. But the mental exhaustion that I felt, I had no choice but I used to tell myself that I didn't have time to build any real wealth outside of my job. And that mindset kept me stuck way longer than I needed to be. This video is for you if you have a full time job, you have a lot going on, and you know you should be building something on the side, but you keep telling yourself that you do not have the time. I'm here to tell you if you don't figure out how to find time, you're going to be stuck and reliant on that one income and nothing about your situation will change. So today I'm going to show you how I run my real estate portfolio, my personal brand, my full-time job, how I do it all with the same 24 hours in the day that you have. The one thing I'm not going to do is wake up at 5 a.m. I'm not a morning person. And that's one of the first pieces of advice that people give you when you're looking for more time in your day is that you have to wake up earlier. Well, I'm not a morning person per se, and you can't make yourself be a morning person. What I've discovered is that your brain has already decided when it wants to function at peak performance. One of the best things that happened to me this year is that my son went to kindergarten and school starts at 7:45, which means I have him there around 7:25 or 7:30. And for me to say I'm not a morning person, the idea of coming home, getting right on my computer, knocking things out, that's the best part of my day. That is the most productive part of my day because the house is quiet. I guess my brain has woken up and it hasn't gotten bogged down with everything else that is going to come its way. So that's what have found to work the best. I come right in after drop off. I get an hour and a half of my own personal stuff done before my workday even begins. And that works for me and the way my brain is set up. For some people, maybe it's more evening time, maybe it's afternoon time. Whatever time you choose, it's up to you. The point is, don't try to force yourself to be productive or to be creative during times where you really don't want to be. There was a time in my 20s where I thought I could burn the candle on both ends and I could wake up early, stay up late, work a full time job, work a part time job. I was in a long distance relationship at the time, so I was up and down the road all the time. It was just a lot going on. And I realized I was doing too much when my partner brought it to my attention that every weekend when you get here, you literally collapse. You come here to go to sleep because you're working so hard in your everyday life where you are. And it's like, that's not cool when you're in relationships. I figured that out pretty quickly that while I was still young and I was able to push through energy wise, physically, I was able to push through and do all those things. But the mental exhaustion that I felt, I had no choice but to fall asleep when the weekend hit. Whenever I had a spare moment, sleep was just, it was summoning me. Like it just took over. And so what I know is that now that I'm in my 40s, I absolutely do not have that capacity. I cannot bite off more than I can chew. I'm very serious about what time do I have to put towards something. So I share that I have my morning block and then I have my afternoon block. Sometimes once my workday is over with, I can carve out maybe an hour before my other job takes on, which is cooking and having the home ready and helping with homework and doing all of those things. So I have those two blocks baked in. And what that gives me is at least 2 hours a day. I'm a believer that if you give yourself at least 2 hours a day to work towards your dreams, you can make something happen. And that's because 2 hours a day, and that's only if you look at Monday through Friday, that's 10 hours a week. That's a part time job. Like that's enough time to get something done. So when people say they don't have time to build wealth or work on something outside of corporate, you have time. You're just either scrolling on your phone or you're not being productive with that time that you do have. I get it. It's like you work all day, you want to have some downtime to do some things for yourself. But if you restructure your day and your life, you realize you can have it all because I don't commit to doing any work on the weekend. Like Saturday and Sundays are a bonus. If I feel like going to the computer and doing something for an hour, if I have an idea of something I just want to jump on and crank it out real quick, I'll do it. But there's no real requirement. And so I know that during the week, my mental energy needs to go toward running my 9 to 5, running the real estate business, and managing my personal brand. And so I try to do all those things between the hours of 7:45 and 5 p.m. I don't plan to do anything even in the evenings because I've been so productive throughout the day. That ship is sailed. Like I've put out all the creativity, all the ideas, all the productivity that I'm going to do by 5 p.m. every day. And so I'm okay with that because I know I'm getting at least 10 hours a weekend on my dreams. And then still have my weekends to myself. The second thing I manage is that I focus my time on making decisions versus completing tasks and speaking about tasks. So for the real estate business specifically, I have an on the ground property manager that handles most of the day to day things that pop up. They are the first line of contact outside of AI for tenants, for vendors, for all those things. So I'm not the first layer of contact there. And what used to happen is that my manager would be calling me all the time, all day long. My phone did nothing but ring. And that was because I probably had not equipped her with the processes so that she could make decisions on her own, so that she could carry things out without asking me for approval, without asking me what I thought. So it didn't take me long to realize that while I'm working my full-time job, I cannot have my phone ringing off the hook about random questions. I need to pull back a little bit, assess what are the questions that I'm constantly getting, and put a process in place so that those can move without me. And that's the key. You have to find a way for things to move without you. And that's whether you use AI, that's whether you put a process in place, that's whether you have a decision tree where someone else can do the work with you. It is very difficult to try to build wealth outside of your 9 to 5 if you are taking on all of the tasks and everything depends on your time, your energy, your mental capacity. You have to find areas where you can outsource. And now, because we all have AI at our fingertips, it's not nearly as expensive as it used to be. Back when I was trying to run my personal brand several years ago, it was costing me thousands of dollars every month to try to work my full time job and work the personal brand on the side. And then, so in my real estate business, some of the things that I specifically don't do anymore, I don't answer messages, I don't do repetitive tasks, and I don't stay busy with the day to day. What I do, my system is actually very simple. I check in every morning because I have AI doing a lot of keeping things moving. I have a lot of status emails that I need to read. My AI leasing agent is sending me a status email. My AI budget assistant is sending me a status email. All of the calls and emails and things that happen throughout the day, I get a 24-hour daily digest of that. So I have a lot of things to catch up on. So I check in every day. I catch up on everything. I see what decisions need to be made. I do not focus on things that need to happen, tasks that need to be completed, boxes that need to be checked. That's not for me. That's for my manager and on the ground person to do, and or AI. That's how I have it set up so that it's not about I need more time to get things done. It's I need to sit down, look at what decisions need to be made, look at what processes need to be outlined. If there's a question that somebody didn't have the answer to, that's a task for me. That means I haven't laid things out properly enough or made things accessible enough or made it user friendly so that they can do it without me. So those are things that I work on. And that's what kind of preserves the time. So when people hear me say that I run 90 rental units as a portfolio, people are like, how do you do all that? Well, I don't do a lot of it. My job, have removed myself from the base ground level work. And not to say I never had to do it. When I only had 7 units, I was doing everything. And then I quickly realized that I needed to have a process. I needed to get rid of some of these tasks because it wasn't enough hours in the day. And I think that's something that everybody needs to consider. If you're feeling like you don't have enough time in the day or enough hours in the day, look at what it is that you're actually doing. Because some of those things don't need to be done by you, and some of them don't need to be done at all. And so if you're spending time doing anything other than making decisions, creating processes, and communicating with the people who need to carry that out for you, you will always feel like you don't have enough time. And everybody has to start at level 0, right? I get that. But if you're trying to start something from the ground up, you have to accept that it's going to take you a little bit longer. So when I had 7 units, it could take me a week to close the books. It wasn't even that much on there. But it could take me a week to close the books because there was so much manual manipulation. Now I have a bookkeeper who makes sure everything is right before I even look at it. I can literally close the books in an hour now. So when you look at my week, I've given myself 10 hours a week. Well, it only took me an hour to close the books. Now I can work on content. Now I can look at what does the leasing agent need me to do? Do I have some approvals or some declines for people who want to move in my buildings? Like I'm just moving from task to task and I'm getting so much done because I'm sitting up here high level and I'm not getting down into the weeds. I know that I have work to do. If something forces me to get down into the weeds, that means I have work to do. And there is a level of trust that you do have to have in your ability to set processes and your team that you've given the task to. Because some people set up a process and then they have to handhold it and watch it all day. I simply don't have the capacity. I have a very short amount of time that I can put towards these things. And so when I put it in place, I'll wait to hear feedback. If it doesn't work, somebody will be hollering. So I build it once and I let it run. And actually, just the other day, I built something because I am on Substack as well. And the little nuance to Substack is that you cannot not publish, you cannot schedule Substack notes. And Substack notes are kind of like a Twitter feed, but the Twitter feed is where it's at, right? More people are watching the feed with the short notes than there are people who are reading your long form content. So you have to feed the algorithm with that short form content. But for a person like me, if I want a presence there, it's almost like you have to do it live and in the moment. And I have a personal mantra this year that I'm trying to break down is that I'm trying to get rid of all extra button clicking. That to me is how I determine if a task is worth my time and if I should be focusing on doing it. If I only have 10 hours a week, I can't spend 30 minutes clicking around on buttons. And that's exactly what posting Substack notes is was requiring because I already have a content agent that is taking my YouTube transcripts and creating both long form and short form content. It stores it somewhere. So what I would have to do is go into Notion where everything is stored, copy the short note, go into Substack, start a new note, paste and click send. Now, Substack did just add a feature where you can schedule notes, but it's still the same button clicking. Copy from Notion, paste into Substack schedule. Copy from Notion, paste into Substack schedule. I don't even have time for that. So I went to Claude and I said, this is too many button clicks. What can I do? And so, of course, Claude came up with a solution. So now I have a Substack post agent, which is posting my Substack notes for me. Genius. It already has access to my Notion. Just grab it and put it there. It's the same thing I would have done. And it's my notes. And it's my words because it was pulled from a video transcript. It's perfect. And so I was spending that could have been 30 minutes to an hour. That would have been one of my 1 hour blocks to get Substack notes ready for the rest of the week. Well, now I don't have to do that. I mentioned that I have a Zillow agent for the real estate business. And what the Zillow agent does is it monitors my email. It's helping me fill apartments way faster than I could have done manually because I would have to wait for the request to come in. I would have to answer all sorts of questions. I would have to send all sorts of emails and they were all saved responses. So it's really the same kind of practice here. Now my agent reads my email looking for questions from potential tenants. I have several saved responses. It knows how to change those responses based on what the people are asking for, fires it off. I don't need to be involved in that process. It's like, you know what I want to say, send it off. And what I love is that I'm not getting rid of the initial decision. I decided what the template is that you should send, just like I decided what the Substack note will actually say. But the actual distribution of that, I don't want any parts of that because I don't have time. I'd rather spend more time focusing on decisions. And I think for a lot of people who are saying they want to build something outside of their 9 to 5 and feeling like they don't have time, they have not built the muscle to focus on making decisions. And one of the decisions that you will have to make pretty early on is where are you going to focus your time? I know people who are trying to trade stocks 1 month, who are trying to buy real estate the next month, who are posting on YouTube the following month, who just keep bouncing around, starting a laundromat, starting this, starting that. It's like, pick something that fits your lifestyle, that fits the time commitment that you have, that somewhere where you have competitive advantage, and put your nose down and see it through. Give yourself a year to focus on something. I can certainly see why it feels like you don't have time when you keep bouncing around from thing to thing and you just you're not seeing any momentum. And so with putting all these agents in place and my very strict schedule and time blocks and when I can work on my own personal growth and wealth building, it allows me to see momentum. The other thing I had to put in place to allow me to do all these things while I have a full-time job is boundaries. I mentioned that I have a grounds team for my real estate business. And one of the boundaries I set with them is that you cannot call me. I mentioned that there was a time where my phone was ringing off the hook and they were calling me for everything. Well, I went all the way to the other far extreme and I'm like, you can't call me at all. Even if I'm working from home, pretend I'm at the office. because I cannot have my day interrupted and my attention scattered and context switching and this and that. I can't have that. I'm not productive. And most likely, what you're calling me about is not an emergency. I have given you the tools to make decisions and to do as you see fit. If there's something that can't wait until 5 p.m., you need to call the police and you need to call the fire department because it's probably something I can't do anything with it anyway. I'm already a remote investor. So that should tell you the level of emergency that you absolutely need to hear from me is about. So that's another thing you really need to consider is what boundaries are you going to put in place? How are you going to protect your day? How are you going to make sure that when you do focus on whatever it is you want to build, that you don't have all these distractions pulling on you throughout the middle of the day. I do think it's a little bit unrealistic for people to think that I'm going to work my job and then throughout the day, I'm just going to pop in and pop out. You have to have a structure because when you pop in and pop out, you're not going to get anything done. And you're going to be working on that same, for me, for example, I'm going to be working on that same lease all week long. I'm going to be working on trying to respond, go back and forth with potential tenants all week long. Whereas put the system in place, let it work, and put your boundaries in place so that you know your peace is protected and that when you are working on it, you are on fire. I 100% support that you have to work. You have to figure out when you work best. And that is the time you work it, work it, work it. Stop trying to work on times that you know you're not productive. Stop trying to stack too many things on your calendar. Just stop doing the most and start doing what actually works. So after I put all those things in place, here's what it looks like today. So my real estate business, we meet as a team for 1 hour every single week. And so in that 1 hour, we are talking about high level, high priority things. We've all been getting daily digest every single day of the week. So on that one day that we meet, if there is something that a process that didn't work, an emergency you couldn't handle, any situation that requires me, that is when you bring it up and I knock them all out right then and there. It's a working meeting. I don't like to take stuff away with me because I already know I have limited time to work on things. If I tell myself, well, let me take down these tasks and I'll work on them next week. When next week comes, I have new tasks to work on. So I don't even fool myself. I work on everything then in that 1 hour. The daily digest emails are really helpful because it helps you stay engaged with what is going on without the midday interruptions. And so, yes, I could have a fire on the ground, a tenant completely upset about something, this, that, and the third. And if I stopped throughout the day and like peek to see what the conversation was, I would just get distracted. I would get pulled in. A lot of times what you find is that when you give people some space, they cool down and now the emergency is not emergency anymore. 9 times out of 10, that's what was happening before. My grounds team would be blowing up my phone. And when I wouldn't answer for 2 or 3 hours, all of a sudden they text back and say, oh, I figured it out. Exactly. So I read my daily digest in the morning. I make any decisions that need to be made and I move on. That's it for the day. That's it until my next work block comes up. And I do think that's a little bit of a misconception that people think if you're trying to start a business or you're trying to build wealth, it's something that you're doing all day long. You're not. You're finding dedicated time to do it. And you have to make sure you're working on things that matter. And I think now that you have AI at your disposal, I think a lot of people used to get caught up in the doing things that don't matter. Now all you got to do is dump everything in Claude or whoever you use and say, these are the tasks that I'm doing during the time I have to work on my business or build my growth engine. Help me do more with less. You will get a full plan of how you can what activities are actually of value and what activities you have no business doing. So try that if you still feel like what you're trying to build or what you're trying to do, that is simply impossible to find the time to do it. So that's pretty much how I keep everything moving. I have not quit my job. Did not find more time. I figured out how to best utilize what I had at my disposal. And it's almost like complaining doesn't help anyone. So you could spend time complaining about that you don't have time. And guess what? This time next year, you may still not get anything off the ground. Or instead of complaining that you don't have enough time, you could use that actual time. And so it's like, instead of feeling sorry for myself that I'm not like people on the internet, I don't have all day to frolic around and go get coffee and work on my business and work in cafes or whatever people do. Instead of feeling sorry for yourself, spend that time doing one productive task. And so basically, the moral of the story is you have to change how you operate. You're not going to find more time. You have to figure out how to use the time more effectively in a way that will actually help you and take you further. It's like the goal is not to find more hours in the day. The goal is to make the hours that you have work harder for you. The same discipline that you use to find that job that you have to climb the career ladder, to do all the things you've done in your career, that's the same discipline you're going to use to build something outside of it. My name is Jerry, and if you're still watching, do me a favor, go ahead and give that like button a smash. Keep building that confidence and keep building that cash. You can get a behind the scenes look at my businesses over on Substack at Confidence is Cash, and you can follow how I'm using AI to do all of the things over at the Prompt Life Podcast here on YouTube. All the important links will be in the description. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.